We are now going to go live on blackdoctor.org. It's like space for Black women to find health information.
Got my backdrop, but that's okay.
She almost forgot about this.
I assume this is happening. Okay, hi everyone. We are live. This is Haley Brown. And I have a really, really excited show for you today. This show is our Pink Table Talk show. And I think we've now been doing these for like a year, which is really exciting. Focus on Love of My Girls, our campaign for young Black women and Black breast health. And I have my host here, Dr. Candace. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. It's sort of hard to believe that we've been doing this for, almost, I guess, a year now. It's crazy. And I'm really excited about today's show. I don't know, Ashley, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, go for it.
I can. Thank you, Haley and Dr. Candace and Ricky. Thank you all for having me here today. My name is Ashley Dedman, and I am a children's author. I am a breast cancer advocate. I'm also a BRCA variant carrier, a caregiver. I had two parents who had cancer. My mother had metastatic breast cancer and is no longer with us. And then my father is a prostate cancer survivor. And just have a family history of breast cancer. And so I myself, as I shared, a BRCA2 mutation carrier. So I've done a lot of early initiation to breast screenings to really protect and monitor my health and also to reduce my risk of breast cancer. And so along the way, I started my career as a health and PE teacher and curriculum writer. And I developed a book on how to talk to families about a breast cancer diagnosis. When my mother was diagnosed, I was a teenager, and there were not a lot of resources out there to kind of help me understand what was happening. And I think anytime you get any information like a diagnosis, you almost have to deliver it in a very childlike way. No matter how old you are, you have to really simplify it. And so there were no resources at the time. And so years later, when I went through my preventative double mastectomy to reduce my risk, I had a 2-year-old at the time, and it was just very challenging on how to explain to her what was happening to mommy, why mommy couldn't pick her up, why mommy couldn't hold her or hug her. And so for me, the closest book out there that I could look for was a book about a breast cancer diagnosis. And what I realized was there were no books out there for people of color. And so I saw the learning gap and I decided to write one on my own.
You're totally like speaking to a really close place for us. This is my good friend Janae Carpenter, because before my time at Touch, where I served as the director of programs and partnerships, I was actually an elementary school educator. So like when I saw your book, I was like, love books, got to nerd out over children's books. They're my favorite. And then Janae, she was one of my parents. And so I taught over my course of this school, at this week at this one school, I taught 3 of her 4 kids, and the fourth one was always my race. And so we just got really close, and now we're at the point where we're having sleepovers. We're all hanging out. Like she came to my wedding, but she's also an educator at Bowie State. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, awesome. So I am Dr. Janae Carpenter. A lot of my work is in sociology, and so when you look at disparities in education, that is truly at the heart. So when Haley asked me to be a part, I'm like, absolutely. And outside of that, I work for the National Institutes of Health under the under NIAID, which is the AIDS and Immunology Institute. And so a lot of my work there, we're looking at learning gaps with employees specifically, but really looking at health through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And of course, my mama, 3 little girls and a son, but this is very important, just looking at how do we educate our families, and we know as we strengthen the Black family, we can strengthen, and close the gap in health disparities, and also we can strengthen the Black woman as well.
Yeah. Kate, you were, this was the first one I had in my class. I had her in first grade. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm 10 years old.
Hi, Caitlin. Nice to meet you. I have my daughter here with me today. This is
My name is Ava. I am 9 years old.
Everyone's so cute.
Kayla
And-
actually has a twin. So Kayla has a twin, and we're actually here right now live from Crucial Sports and Learning Complex. And her twin, she's a long distance runner. So Haley's like, I'm gonna come meet y'all where you're at, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what this campaign is about, is meeting people where they're at, sharing the information. Who cares? Like, when you are a mom and juggling so many different activities and sports, it's great because it's like she has one in gymnastics, one that dances, one that runs track. Like, you just gotta be able to be on the move.
Yeah, but you have to also understand something, even though we're not getting into the chat, but we're talking about something so pivotal. As a Black woman balances life, how do we still educate her or meet her in spaces such as these spaces to provide information?
No, totally.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think in terms of like learning gaps in general, it's also really important to think about what Love of My Girls is. So just to give people the background that don't know our campaign, and what we do is we go to where Black women live, work, play, pray, and slay, which is pretty much here at community centers and places where Black women are, and share information about Black breast health, because we have Black breast cancer is very, very real. We have 41% higher mortality rate. We have a 39% higher recurrence rate. And Black women under 35 get breast cancer at 2 times the rate and die at 3 times the rate. And so screening guidelines are now telling Black women to all women to get screened at 40, which is doesn't match our needs as Black women if it's affecting us so heavily under 35. And so we kind of designed this campaign to also bridge that gap. Right, bridge that learning gap of giving Black women the tools to 3 things. 1, believe that Black breast health is real. If Black breast cancer is real, then so is our Black breast health. And frankly, it's something that we should be investing in during puberty, when your boobs are coming in and things are already weird, like you're already figured out. And then the second part is to learn how and when to check your girls, to dive into that process. Because again, if you're not getting screened, you need to be doing something to make sure that you are getting the breast, like checking yourself and being a part of that. It's not about looking for an abnormality. It's about knowing your normal and building into your routine that way. I think that's a huge piece of the equation, because 80% of abnormalities are found by self-exams. So it's super important. And then the last piece, I think, which lends itself to what we're really talking about today, which is unlocking her story. And to just give you, those personal pieces, and we can all kind of give those as well, is for me, I'm actually have to do the wisdom study and do my gene test, but my sister doesn't have any genes, my mom doesn't have any genes. I'm thinking that I probably don't, but I need to start getting screened though, because I have a great aunt, a mother, and a grandmother who all have breast cancer. And so although I might not have a gene, we also might not have a gene based on us not knowing all the genes that exist yet, right? And not testing for all of them. But at this point, I don't have a gene. So it's hard for me to advocate for screening. And knowing my family, her story, and walking into the door with that information helps me advocate for myself in the space to get the screen that I need and have it be free and accessible. And so it's really, really important. It's been a struggle at 31 trying to just get screened. It shouldn't be that hard. As somebody in this work, I'm trying to live the process of somebody who's not in this work. You just go through, going to my primary care doctor, getting the referral, doing those pieces, and it's not easy. And so again, having my family, her story unlocked, having the worksheet that I've downloaded from our Love of My Girls website that helps me dive into it is so important. And And I think, but Ashley, you just mentioned your family also being affected by prostate cancer, and that's on our worksheet as well, which is men with prostate. And I think I let Dr. Candace speak to this more, but there's a lot of correlation between women with breast and men with prostate in families. And so you might not even recognize that you're at risk for breast cancer because you didn't attach your dad's prostate to this. You know, like people don't even make that leap. And so again, this worksheet goes into any any disease state that like could relate to a breast cancer risk. So hypertension, diabetes, all of that, because this is about being healthier and knowing our risk for all things. And surprisingly, that a lot of those things work in tandem, and we don't necessarily know that. And so it's important to highlight all of that. So yeah, Dr. Candace, could you actually dive into that prostate piece? Because I don't think I know all those details.
Sure. There are a lot of things I wanted to dive into based on what was just said. So I think it's really important that we pay attention to our whole family history, not just breast cancer, because we do know that especially for things like BRCA2 and some other genetic mutations, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, melanoma, pancreatic cancer, those are all associated with having an elevated risk of having breast cancer whenever you have those genetic mutations. So it's not just a family history of breast cancer. Breast cancer is important to know your family history, but also know who's had ovarian cancer, who's had prostate cancer. And then the other thing, as far as screenings go, it's really important to know that just because you don't have a genetic mutation does not mean that you should not get early screening. A lot of it is also based off of who in your family had breast cancer or other cancers and what age they had that cancer. So if your mom had breast cancer at age 35, then you're considered elevated risk also. So it's really important to know that history. Despite whatever genetic testing says, because we know that historically the genetic tests that were done were majority done on Caucasian women. So we don't have the full spectrum of different variants that could be more prevalent in minority populations. And then on top of that, for screening for Black women, we know that we are more likely to have breast cancer under the age of 40. There was a paper that came out early last year in 2023 showing that young Black women at age 40 to 45 were more likely to have first mammogram cancer. So they were more likely to be diagnosed with cancer on their first mammogram. So it's really, really important that we are teaching our youth how to do self-breast exams, because 40% of cancers are found on palpation, 60% are found on mammograms, but a good amount are still found by physical exam or feeling a lump in the breast, either by the patient or by a physician. So it's really important to know the signs to look for and to know what to talk about in our families. So I'm really excited to hear this book and get this for everyone I know who has children.
Right? No, I literally went crazy at Christmas. I was like, Ashley, send me the link so I can buy these books.
You know what, Haley, what I didn't know was until I think when I forgot where we were in person, but I didn't know you were a teacher. And so that was like, I was like, oh my gosh. So that was really cool to hear. And
everybody knows that children's books are literally my jam. So like, it's embarrassingly so. So the fact that I got to spend my Christmas nerding out over children's books was amazing. And I think too, it's just so cool to find those gaps, fix that, like, and like provide the education that we need.
yes.
And I'd love to hear more about your story, Ashley, before you guys dive into the book over there and just like how you made those choices. Because my sister is actually somebody who's now in the process of looking into getting preventative mastectomy and that process. And so because of our family risk, and she has 3 daughters, and she's like, I'm not doing this, you know. So I would love to hear about how you made some decisions that you made. This work.
You know, Haley, I think, it's never an easy decision. It's never easy to lose your mother. It's never easy to then, like, 3 months later, have a father who's diagnosed with prostate while you're in college and trying to just begin your life as a young adult. But I think what really helped to guide my decision it was based on facts. I had a family history on my maternal side, my mother's side, great grandmother, grandmother, mother, father, prostate cancer. And so knowing I had a family history and then taking that information back to my doctor, because our family history can change at any time, or we can find out information at any time. And so it was taking that information to my doctor, going through genetic testing and counseling, and then testing, and then finding out that I carried this mutation. So it was like facts and then another layer of facts. And so that really helped me to make informed medical decisions. And even when it was emotional, and it still is, it's grounded in facts. It's grounded in truth. I'm a believer, so it's grounded in truth. It's got to be grounded in truth. So my medical decisions were grounded in facts and in truth. And so that made it a little bit more easier. And so knowing my family history, I was then able to take the next steps to meet with a high-risk oncologist to explore all of my risk management options. And I did that. And then I elected to do early initiation to mammograms, breast MRIs, breast ultrasounds, transvaginal ultrasounds as well, because being a BRCA2 mutation carrier, also at a higher risk for ovarian cancer. And so it wasn't an easy decision, but it was informed, guided. But along the way, having children, it was also keeping my children aware of their family history. My daughters know their family history. They know that I carry a mutation. And so it's like, we have to normalize it. I remember when this one was, I think maybe like 6 or 7 years old, she was in the back of the car doing a self-breast exam. And I was like, hey, kiddo, you remember you were like doing all of this?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what are you
long time
doing?
ago.
And she's like, I'm doing my self-breast exam, Mom. And I'm like, cool, like great,
Every month.
so, and because they see that, and even though now I don't need to have mammograms based on guidelines, I still check my breasts daily because I have to, but I also know I have little ones watching. And so I have to create the habit and recreate the habit so that they can see that this is what they should be doing. And so when I think back to my mom's journey and my time as a teacher, asking her like what was the hardest part of her journey, and her telling me it was telling you. And Haley, I'm sure as being a teacher, you have a lot of students tell you things. As a health teacher, I heard several cases of breast cancer about moms and grandmothers and aunts. And I think back when I was a teacher, like, cancer was covered on one page, one paragraph, and it was under communicable and non-communicable diseases. And like, that's it.
That's crazy.
So, which is why I did curriculum writing, because if you have a problem with the book, then go do something about it. So I did curriculum writing to change the curriculum at the district level. And then I helped do some curriculum writing at the state level with TEA. And so, I believe our books are beginning to evolve more, but having the tools and the resources as a teacher, you just see the gap and you're like, hey, let me work with what I know and work with other people who are, smarter than me or just as knowledgeable as me in this space, working with children to create this tool. And so that's what I did.
I think it's amazing. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
I think it's amazing that you did the work to build this into the education system. That's what is really needed. And I feel like that is a huge part of the issue. On a deeper level, psychologically, there are a lot of patients who just don't want to know about their health issues. And I feel like if people were taught about health earlier in life, they would be less afraid to know about their health and like any issues that can arise. I always love it whenever I see patients come in ahead of time in order to talk about their risk, talk about what we can do in order to mitigate these risks and decrease their risk. and if needed, do something called a prophylactic mastectomy, so that it's all done in a controlled session. And it's a lot more empowering to do it in that way, I feel, than to have to do it later on where like you look back and see like everyone in your family had cancer and you wish you had done something about it, but you don't even know to do something because you aren't taught anything initially. So I think it's great that you're doing this, and I'm really excited to hear this and see this book. And I'm already on Amazon ordering some.
Well, thank you. And I will say in May, I have the big trip coming out, and that one is about Black families talking about Black families talking about family health history. So the setting for this book will be at a family reunion, and family health history is shared for those family members who are open to sharing it. And back to Haley and Dr. Candace, your point, it's not just about cancer, but it's about mental health focus. It's also focused on cardiovascular focus. So just talking about all family health history, because that's what we need to know. We can't cherry pick what we do and don't tell. We have to be able to be vulnerable to be able to share this information, especially with our children and our great-grandchildren, because that's that's really what it's about, is educating and preparing the next generation so that they have what they need to be healthy and whole. So yeah.
No, I think you said something so cool too, of like, you even more so do your self-breast exams just so that they see you do it, right? Just so that, because you're like, just so you're modeling the correct behavior. And I feel like that probably resonates with so much of your actions, probably do so much. Like, what are some of the things that you do in your life that are just like, because you need to set the right example for them?
So
I
one of
agree.
the things, so I have something called ankylosing spondylitis. And so what that is inflammation in my spine causes my neck to fuse and around my spine. And so some of the healthy habits that I do, I practice yoga at least 4 times a week. Hot yoga, I'll actually go to the studio so the girls know, mommy has yoga stuff on. I'm going to the studio, right? And so part of what elicited my condition was stress. And, so healthy habits like that, whether it's lighting my candles around the house, and really, really self-care practices that help to say, hey, my body is important. And though we go, there is a pace at which we have to go, right? Because I think even noticing some things with our health, because we go so much, sometimes you can miss those things, or you can just skim over them. So I think those are two things that I really like try to, really instill into my children in general. Yeah.
And I've seen some of your actions that you do play when I'm like with them on the playground at school. Like I can see those things happening, so it's so good. I can think of all the things that my mom instilled in a really positive way that I like were probably more so for me than for her, and just to model those items. But let's go ahead and let's dive into this book. I'm so excited because I want to hear from the kiddos and the moms and the reflections about how we can really understand how to have these conversations moving forward. So
Absolutely. I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to have my daughter read it because it's like full circle. So I wrote this book when she was 2, as I shared earlier, because I didn't have the words. And now I have the words, and she's at the age where she can read it. So I'm going to have her read it. So I'm going to share my screen. Hold on one second. Can y'all see my screen?
Yep, we're good to go.
All right. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna open it up. Just kind of guide you through. I have, I believe in just, again, having a disclaimer, and that is, this is for educational purposes, but all persons should seek their healthcare provider with any questions that they have about their family history or any medical decisions. My dedication page is Ava Lynn Grace. So that's a combination of my girl's name and my mother's name. It's dedicated to caregivers and people of color impacted by breast cancer. And then I have my acknowledgement page and my forward. So this is just really, again, just helping the reader understand, what inspired me to write this book. And then my forward, which is written by my surgical breast oncologist, who just really empowered me as a Black woman, as a patient, as a woman with dense breasts, to really understand me as a person, and really help me and encourage me to be a part of this process, and just always made sure I had a voice when it came to my medical decisions. And then this is my note, a note from myself to the reader. And then we kick off the book with Elise. And so Elise is my middle name. And so again, this is really my mother's story. So this is honestly a true a legacy inspired project to tell her story. And it was also a therapeutic way for me to grieve my mother. So here we go.
Hi, I am Elise.
Louder.
Hi, I am Elise. I love spending time with my family. We often play together in the backyard or in the neighborhood park. We love going to the zoo. My favorite animals are lions and monkeys. In the evening, I enjoy bedtime stories with Mom and Dad. We take turns reading. It's the best. One night before falling asleep, I slipped away out of bed to give Mom one more kiss. She was in her bathroom doing her monthly self-breast awareness check. She usually didn't look worried when she checked her breast for changes, but that night she looked worried. Everything okay, Mom? I asked. I just feel a little change in my breast, she said. She gave me a kiss and sent me back to bed. Over the next few days, Mom and Dad spoke to each other in whispers, spent lots of time looking up information on the computer, and made tons of phone calls. What was happening? Did it have anything to do with the change she felt in her breast? One afternoon, after dance class, Mom answered the phone. While she spoke, I saw that she looked really worried. What was the call about? I wondered. I asked Dad, do you know why Mom is worried? He said, well, we'll talk to you at bedtime, sweetheart. Later that evening, my parents sat on the edge of my bed. They looked serious. Elise, we have some news to share with you, Mom said. I discovered a lump in my breast. So I went to the doctor. She gave me a clinical exam and told me that the lump was not normal. So she decided to run some tests. Can you tell me more? I asked, feeling worried and confused. I asked Mom and Dad more questions, and their answers and pictures made me feel a little better and helped me understand. The doctor explained that monthly self-breast awareness checks and mammograms are important, Mom explained. What's a mammogram? I asked. Mom said it's a screening or a test that takes pictures of the inside of my breast, but I missed my mammogram last year, so I had to get 2 tests. A mammogram and also a breast ultrasound, which takes a different sort of picture of the inside of my breast. What happens now? I asked. Well, Dad said, Mom needs a biopsy, which is a special test to see what type of lump this is. The lump could be cancerous, and that's very bad. Or it could be benign, which means it's not cancerous. Even if it's benign, the doctor will still need to watch it over time because it's a change in their breast. Then Mom and Dad explained that normal cells divide while abnormal cells, or cells that are not normal, grow out of control.
Uh-oh. There we go.
A few days later, Mom had the biopsy and rested afterwards. She didn't feel well, but I was a big helper. I watched TV with her. Then I saw that Dad needed me too. So I helped him cook, clean up, I was glad I could be there for my family. Mom got better each day. One morning, she and Dad went back to the doctor. What did the doctor say? I asked when they got home. Let's go to the park, Dad suggested. We had a picnic in the park. I knew this would be a very serious conversation. The doctor gave us the biopsy results. Mom began. My lump is cancerous, which means I have breast cancer. What does this mean? I asked, my heart beating fast. I need to see an oncologist, a cancer doctor who will help care for me, Mom explained. The doctor also asked if anyone in my family had cancer. If they did, I would need to get genetic testing, which is a special test to look at my DNA. But luckily, no one related to me had cancer before. We met with a patient navigator, Dad said. They are helpers who guide families through the cancer process. Our navigator gave us information about support groups for persons with cancer and their loved ones, Mom added. Depending on what type of treatment I receive to try and get rid of cancer, I may be extra tired and my body might change. Hearing this made me sad. I started crying. My parents hugged me tight. Mom said, we will get through this with help of faith, family, and friends. You can ask questions anytime. And we can even make a big helper list so you can help take care of Mom when she begins her treatment, Dad suggested. Having Mom and Dad trust me with this news helped me to understand my feelings and thoughts better. As we headed home, I noticed Mom was crying. Wipe your tears, Mom, I said kindly. Keep your faith. And then I gave her a big hug and kisses. I think she needed them more than me.
Yay! Good job, kiddo. Good
That
job.
is amazing,
I'm
Ava.
literally, I'm obsessed right now. I'm like, I can't tell if I'm more into the content or Ava's like amazing expression.
I know,
Like,
you
that
should
was
have
so
that
great.
recorded on like audiobook or something.
No, seriously.
I want to put that recording on our website. Like Ava, like you crushed it. But Ava, tell me what it was like. How do you feel about that book? What are the things that resonate, like, are really cool for you?
What do you think about the book? Like, what did you learn from it? What resonated with you?
Mostly about
Talk louder.
my grandma and mommy and my grandpa's journey through grandma's cancer process, and also helping me understand what to do whenever I feel like there's a change in my breast, and also make sure I always am checking my breast every month or every once in a while. It's mostly every month. That's what Mom says. But she said I could do it more than that.
I'm dying. This is great. And I think the way that you were able to highlight certain words and like
Yes.
get that quick definition, I think that was so amazing. Caitlin, are these something that you would want to have in your school? And it made me reminiscent because this was one of my best readers back in first grade. So it's like, this is so cool because we like talked about all the things that you were doing, Ava, as a reader. But this is something that you want to have in your school, you think?
Probably so.
Yeah.
Because none of these books teach me that.
They don't teach you. Do you think this book teaches you more than some of the books you have to read at school?
Yeah, about health.
Yeah. What do you have any health books at school?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Non-fiction books.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like kids aren't always into. Some kids are like all about nonfiction. Some kids are not. But like, naturally you think story. Like with this book has such great nonfiction facts. And so I think it's great. As a mom, how is that to hear it?
Yeah, so it just reminded me just like how one conversation, just kind of like the impact of one conversation, and how something that can be so taboo, you make it real and accessible. And it's funny, like as generations change, conversations that we wouldn't have or would isolate, like now we're talking about everything, you know? And it's like, let's not the world educate our children, like we can be the ones to do that, right?
To be a part of that
Yeah,
experience.
and it's like, the reality is different socioeconomic classes, like education, like people can explain things at different rates, right? Or not even notice it themselves. So I think closing that gap and simplifying it is such a beautiful thing.
I mean, there are adults that need to read this as well.
Yeah,
And,
no,
like
really.
the way that you can explain, that you can take away the knowledge of the biopsy in these words.
Yeah.
Like adults need to hear this as well.
I
And I think
completely,
we have to oh, go ahead, Dr. Candace.
I completely agree. Adults really need to hear this because, like, as doctors, like we use big words, but we need to make sure that the main principle or the main idea is being conveyed to the patients. And I feel like this book does that in an amazing way. I just bought 12 copies of it while we were here, so I can put them in my clinics and promote people to read them, like even the adults, especially like it tells you exactly like on a biological level, like cancer cells grow out of control. It tells you about your whole care team. Like people don't understand, like, why do I see like 5 different doctors? And it's like, it tells you all of that. It tells you about the patient navigators. Like I'm literally obsessed right now. And I love that it also comes and like it comes with the Black family, but you also have a version that looks like it's like
It's
another
like a persons of color. Like I really didn't
Right.
want to, I just wanted people to be able to, in the first edition, to see themselves in the character. And then led to create, a book that focuses on Black families because of the disparities, Dr. Candace. And I thank you so much for your support. And,
I'll be buying more, don't worry.
And you can't, and I think, we're looking here at the treatment page, and I intentionally did not stage the cancer diagnosis. I didn't intentionally talk about treatment because every woman's or every person's diagnosis is different and unique. But I wanted to highlight, like in the book, it talked about how mom missed her mammogram the year before. And that's the reality of things. We miss things, and how when she missed it, like she had to come back because there was something abnormal felt by the oncologist, like she had to get additional screening. And so I really wanted to make it like real world and what we experience and the stories we, hear. And so, but I think too, it's putting it at a level, a reading level, a literacy level that a child can understand, but even an adult can understand as well.
I feel like these should be in all health classes. Like we had like 5th grade health classes, like at least starting at like 5th grade or elementary level, and then going forward. Like this should be part of all of the curriculums. Like it touches on everything.
Well, then I even added some conversation starters, because a lot of times it's like you read the book and then it's like, now what? And so just very intentional about starting it off very light, with just some general questions about the book, and then really going back and asking the kiddo who's reading the book, can you find the picture of the self-breast exam? Can you find the picture of the clinical exam? And then just really kind of help, prompting that dialogue. And then there's like a coloring book, a coloring page. And then this is like one of my favorites, where there's like that matching, like draw the picture of the clinical exam and match it, to its, the correct image. And so it's so crazy because when I was creating this, I had to have my kids as like my pilot to say, can you complete this activity? And so, but just some other resources throughout. And then I have, from my original book, I have some stories from other mothers, because I recognize I'm an undiagnosed woman. And so I wanted the voice of women who are actually diagnosed to be in the book, because I feel like the book is for the entire family. But also I really feel like women just, I wanted them to have like a section for them. And so this are just some inspiring words from other women who are in survivorship. And then some resources for the entire family. And so when you click on the QR code, Touch is there. And so women are able to not only learn more about Touch and For the Love of Your Girls, but other organizations, Black organizations, and resources that also help to address some of those non-medical drivers. So nonprofits and organizations that provide food and help to close the gap in some other needs as well. So, and then of course, resources for children, because the book is for children. And so I wanted to be able to provide some child-based resources for families as well. And then I just closed the book. So yeah.
I thought that was a sweatshirt at first, and I was like, I want this sweatshirt. I need this sweatshirt. Like, we need a jacket. We need like things. But I mean, one, having the activities is like a game changer at the end. While we were creating Love with My Girls, so much of it was like, what do young Black women need to know? And what do they do? Are they going to be scared if I just say, here's the state of Black breast cancer? Are you going to run away from this information? What's going to make you act on it? And from a Young Women's Advisory Group, I learned that the young Black woman they're not afraid by the stats. They want to hear the information. We're real people and we're not afraid by that. We know that these things exist or that the disparities exist. And so learning about the disparities here isn't scary, but we need action. They felt as if we just don't have enough to teach them how to do the thing or, what that means. And so the fact you have those conversation starters is like everything so that kids can go back and engage the book in another way. But it's nuts,
And I think the major thing that's really, really powerful for me is that when you educate someone, you then give them the ability to advocate for themselves. And I think about my journey, and it's like, I'm not walking in like unknowledgeable, right? So I read up on a condition, I ask specific questions, right? And so that advocating piece is saying, I have the power to do something, right? And so at the smallest level with these activities, we're giving our children the power and adults to say, we can do something because we understand. And so I think that's a big push, like created advocates. And I believe as we continue to do that, and that's an internal thing, so I think as we do that, we'll close the gap even further on multiple levels.
And right now, we're Love My Girls, we're like trying to do create more young women who are knowledgeable. And so we've so we can create more advocates in this space. And now you've made it a way to do the same thing in classrooms. You made it the same, we can do that same process with literal kiddos. Cause you know what I mean? If you have a strong reader, they can read that to, someone could, it has a good span in it. Like I said, because it needs to engage from maybe you being in elementary to a middle, And I think about high school, I don't even remember my health classes. I don't even remember really what I learned or what was discussed. It's kind of crazy.
Breast cancer was not discussed.
No.
Yeah.
And you think too, with the times, what they're putting in food, genetically modified food, so many things, because time has changed. The rate, I believe, in which we, diseases, how our bodies and what we're eating, and even the foods that are accessible to us is shifted, right? Back in the day, Big Mom and them, they might grow a farm and they might grow a garden in the backyard where they were eating from farm to table. Nowadays, it's we don't even know what they're putting this food. So.
Back to the advocacy component, I think that was a really important point. And I think your books, Ashley, they really touch on that extremely well, especially when you mention I can ask my mother about what's going on, and I can come to them with questions. That's sort of building in young minds that it's okay to ask questions about health. And it's a good thing to ask questions. And hopefully that translates over to whenever you have doctor's visits, asking questions about things regarding to health. So I think that was really, really amazing and important.
And thank you for highlighting that, because while I've never heard those words, you have cancer, Dr. Candace, I know you've probably have had to deliver that news. And, so from what I've been told, it's like when you're sharing that news with a woman and her partner, her caregiver, whoever's there, you're essentially sharing that with the entire family. And when you think about when a person is diagnosed, I can't imagine what's going through their mind. I would say, being a mom, any type of life-changing news, their mind immediately goes to, and I know my mom shared, my mind immediately went to you, Ashley, and it was just like, that's where I heard the words, but you and, your brother, y'all's faces flashed before me, and so I wanted to create a tool that was also inclusive of the entire family, because the person that's being diagnosed is getting that information, but also the children are too. And they're not going to always be in the room. They may or may not, but they're going to get that news maybe days later, weeks later, whenever the family members shares that with them. And it's like, how do we do that in a way that, like you said, it empowers the children. It really validates their feelings that they're going to feel of being scared, being worried. Sometimes kids feel like it's their fault, or, they did something to cause it, or they can do something to, help it better. And it's really just, it's really understanding everything that they're going through, because I went through my mother's cancer journey with her, but in a different way. And so it truly impacts the entire family, but just everybody in a different way.
Yeah, I think, I go back to the part when Ava said, and I was a big help because I was so good, because it was like, you wanted to help my mom when she was sick. It was like, I would do anything to like help her feel better and things like that. And I think about Caitlin also being like one of my biggest helpers in my classroom. I would she'd stay 5 minutes late, go to recess late to help me clean up after a meal or something, because that's what these kiddos want to do. And so, and they can, and that they can be a part of this experience still without you having to shy away from showing you in your, in your bedroom and things like that. Also, it's interesting too, I think the part that's super culture is I can name how many times have I gone to check on my mom and she's still in the shower getting ready. You know what I mean? So again, seeing all those little tidbits of that was so my experience all the time. I feel Mom, what are you wearing? It's you have those experiences in those spaces. And so just again, add that layer of comfortability, that layer of this is what families do, this is how families are. It's just so cool. I think you highlighted so many amazing pieces. Yeah.
I know my mom had metastatic breast cancer, and my parents did not tell me that there was no cure. And looking back on it, I'm glad that they didn't, because I really felt like it would have robbed the time that I did have with my mom, because I think that would have always been at the back of my mind. And I'm happy that they chose not to, because it really helped me to enjoy those moments that I did have with my mom. And yes, I think I was then maybe 18 at the time, but they also knew I was in school, so they knew how much I could take. But they kept me prepared and informed along the way without still telling me what the long-term outcome was going to be. And now that I'm an adult, I really appreciate them and thank them for doing that, because I had the time that I had with my mom, and there was no lingering, thought in the back of my mind, you're gonna die. It was just that time that I had. And I also think it empowered me to be the advocate that I am today, because they kept me informed. I'm sure there's things that they did not tell me, and rightfully so. I get it. I understand. But I'm glad that they did tell me what they told me. They created a space for me to ask questions. And my dad was always, when I came home from school, was just like, hey, you should go do this with Mom this weekend. Or, he was always just, you should go plan your wedding with Mom, and I'm like, go plan my wedding? Why? He knew why. She knew why. I didn't know why, but I'm so glad that he told me to go do that. Went to the store and bought a bunch of magazines, and we laid on her bed and we clipped out, magazine, wedding stuff, and we planned my whole wedding. I had no idea why we were doing that. I'm thinking mom is gonna be fine. Um, but I'm so glad that I did, because she got that moment with me. I got that moment with her. But again, I wasn't fearful in that moment. It was just the moment. It was the moment without fear. It was just the moment.
No, I think it's so important because I think what you're highlighting for that I'm hearing is like, it's still your choice, right? Like there's no wrong or right way to have these conversations, not placing blame on how you feel comfortable. Because even as I hear so many stories of survivors and things, I've now been, in my year in this work, year and a half, I've heard some people like yourself actually tell your story a couple different times. I've been blessed enough to hear that. And I've even heard changes over the course of like the year, like, and telling your story, the things that are that you can unpack over time, the things that you remember differently now, the things that like felt differently now that you reflected more, all of those items, right? And so I think it's just really, really cool because there's no right or wrong way. My mom made choices about the things that she was going to tell me and not. With my father included, some without my father, you know what I mean? That was her choice, and it's a lot to go through. I can only imagine, and so you have the right to design that how you want. And I think what you just said too was so crucial. It's about however you decide how you feel comfortable having that look like, giving your kids the space to ask questions. I think is just like gold, right? It's like, despite whether you feel comfortable saying it, and it might be a month after your diagnosis. It could be, however, like, because my mom actually she found out. I was blessed enough to go to her biopsy with her, and then I went back to school. I was in college, and she left me that day at school and went to the airport. And she called the airport and said, "This is what's up." But then I did not get any more real details about the severity of the situation until I came home from the semester, because she was not about to drop me up at school to go spend all this money on my education and not have me focus on that. Like that was a call that she made as a mom. And so like you can still do that. And then I got home and I was like, I wish you had told me I'm not leaving. Like, and then, but like the reality is like, I did get good grades that semester. I did make sure that I took off the next term to hang out with her, then go back to school and like plan my schedule to graduate on time regardless, like obviously in that moment felt some type of way, but like the reality was like she's fighting so I can be in school. She wants to make sure that she can pay every tuition bill, and so it's like, it was my job to do school. That was my job, in those moments. And so, and just like knowing that you can have it the way you want it to look. Yeah. Yeah, this was great. Any other thoughts, guys? I feel like we really did cover a lot today. And I think that I will post the Amazon link so everyone has access to that. If you're not someone that knows about Touch, come to our website, touchbbca.org. Come to Love of My Girls website, loveofmygirls.org. That is GURLS. And join our mailing list, because we send out information like Ashley's book and things like that all the time. And it's so important, again, to just like begin the process. If you're not someone that has had these conversations with your kids yet, you still can. Now's the time. We can't be mad at ourselves for not necessarily not acting the things we know before, but now we know. And like you see these 2, 9, and 10-year-olds like understanding what's going on here. No one's too young to have these conversations. How you have it. So yeah. Any other thoughts?
Thank you again for all of what you've done, Ashley. Like, this is amazing, and I'm really excited to share this resource with everyone.
Yeah, and we are not only going to the book is in the chat on Dr. Is In right now, so if you are live watching this, go check it out. And we also, the first 10 people to sign up for our mailing list are going to get a free book in the mail from LMG. So yeah. Awesome.
This
Well,
is
thank
a
you guys
great
so
conversation. We could, go on and on. I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to include our kiddos, and so I think that's gold right there because, they're going to be the pipeline of our information. And so just glad that they were able to join and learn as well and be empowered by us. And literally, it's about passing that torch.
lovely. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for being here today. Love having kiddos on the show. Let's like do that more because I feel like that's like we're also modeling and acting the things that we want to do more of. So we'll see you guys next month. We're doing a giant Love of My Girls like Galentine's Day launch, some Instagram lives. We're doing a skating party. So if you're in the area, at the DC area, please come out with us. But keep up because we're about to turn up and be on the road a little bit. And so I'm excited for everyone to be able to, we're coming to where you live, work, play, pray, and slay. So be ready. And thank you, Dr. Candace and everybody. We'll see you guys next month. Awesome.